So the big thing across here is within a workplace, you want to support employees and as they adopt and sustain behaviors. You know, and that's building a culture where they're able to adopt and sustain behaviors. I know of a small hospital, a rural hospital in the area, that one of the things they do is at the start of every shift, they sort of have like the Walmart get together, and they have a big round, and they get charged up, and they point out positive things that people have done, and they do that every single shift. So that's just has become part of their culture. And their employee turnover has just drastically dropped. At the first, they lost a certain number of employees who didn't buy into the culture, so those people they were very vocal against it, and they ended up leaving, but now they have an extremely positive culture build up. And they've been doing this for about 3 years now, and you talk across the board to their management, and you talk across the board to their employees, and they have just all bought in. And they're adding service lines all the time. And they have no problem going to their board, their county board, and getting funding to improve services and increase services. So this stuff really, really engages an entire community. So if employees are engaged, they're believing what you're doing, and they feel supportive, you have success returns for the workplace. I think people know this. Brain illnesses, mental illnesses can both cause and exacerbate what you already have. If you have hypertension, you have thyroid problems, people with cancer, any type of thing, it makes everything worse. What happens when you're depressed, anxious, and you're on medication? Well, you start forgetting to take pills. You just don't take them. You don't take care of yourself physically. You don't get out and exercise. You spend a lot of time inside. You don't go out and get sun. And it just makes the rest of the stuff. So the cost of overall health, physical and mental health for the workplace increases. So what happens to the company? Premiums go up. So it's just a huge foundation factor for businesses. So if you can reduce absenteeism, inability to deal with workplace stress causes about 1 million employees to miss work each day. So we sort of talked about that. If you can reduce it, you boost productivity. Oh, this is, we try to use this at our workplace. So, you know, it's very common when you hit a stressor that you get upset and you want to take action. You want to do something because you want to reduce your stress. You don't care what happens down the road, but you want to reduce your stress. So you go down the hallway. I never do this at our workplace, but you want to go down and you want to do something to tell somebody, please take this away. So what we have at our place, and we have to remind ourselves every so often, but we have the 24-hour rule. So there's not many things that have to be solved now, today. You know, it's not like somebody's bringing a gun in the door most of the times, or and it's amazing if you just wait 24 hours, what can happen, what can change in your mind, and new solutions that can be brought up for something that go, oh, it's not such a big deal today as it was yesterday. Yesterday was a really big deal, but now it's not as big a deal. This saves a lot of problems, and this is a good way to talk with employees too when they come in and they're seeking help, or they say they have crises. You might say, well, let's engage, let's talk about this, but first let's both take a little time and let's come back to the table. It can really do wonders. So we talked about reduced disability claims. We do more of these forms. I mean, they seem to grow year by year. Whether it's for FMLA, then it becomes short-term disability, then it becomes long-term disability, and then all of a sudden we have people on Medicaid, Medicare, and they're out of the workplace. And once they're out of the workplace, it's really, really difficult to get them back engaged and get them working. Very, very difficult. So if we can find some way to get them temporarily engaged back in for a little while, a lot of times we can get them fully engaged. but that means the employer has to really be on board in working with us. And if it means a switch for the patient over time, or for the, it might be the employee is just not the best fit, and they need to find a different type of work environment. And well, there's ways to do that rather than just saying it's this way or the highway. So they looked at employee turnover, and if some of the folks, these were the folks receiving the awards today, right? Oh, his organization, the APA. Okay. So this is, I know our organization hasn't hit this. We're sort of in a growth mode. So, but the turnover rate of 6% compared to a national average of 38% for so the top companies. I mean, a turnover of employees of 6% is pretty darn low. I mean, you've got to be pretty darn healthy to be able to do that. You probably have a stable organization that's been around a long time. You have a lot of stable employees on board. You're not creating new positions, but the nice thing about it is doable. It's not something that's just somebody plucks out of thin air. It's something that's doable. So what can everybody do to get closer towards that goal? I always talk with, when I'm one-on-one with any patient, there's studies out there, and there's these things, and then every patient is a study of one. So every employee is an N of one. So personalize the goal. You don't have to get from 38% to 6%. What can we do to get from 38% to 35%? Hey, that's a big win. That's an increase in profits. That's an increase for morale. You just have to move the needle a little bit. A lot of times if we go for the whole enchilada and we don't make it, then everybody feels awful. So how do you set a goal so it's very positive? The stigma of mental illness, it's there. I think it is getting better, but actually, our group is called Premier Psychiatric. So we recently went through a logo redesign, which we don't have up on everything yet, but one of our questions was, are we going to change the name of our group? So because our group says Premier Psychiatric. So, do you really want to put that up on a building? Are we sure we want to put that up on a building? Are you sure people want to walk in where that big sign says Premier Psychiatric? And really at the end of the day, it comes down to, are we going to be part of helping to solve the problem of the stigma? Or are we going to, buy into this thing that we need to rebrand ourselves so we don't have that word at all? If we were the diabetic center, it's really nice to be the heart center. Everybody loves to be the heart center. But for some reason, it's bad to be the psychiatric center or the mental health center. So, we voted to keep that on board and to sort of plug away, because it shouldn't be a big issue. It's your brain. Your brain has issues. Your legs have issues. Your pancreas has issues. Your heart has issues. It shouldn't be a big issue where the issue lies, if we can sort of fix it. When you have brain problems, you have neurotransmitter problems, you have neuronal problems and connections. But those things, there's a lot of science going on now that can fix a lot of these things, or we're moving that way. So we have sort of stuck with that. So 57% of adults trust that others will be helpful and compassionate. However, only 25% of adults who are currently experiencing mental health issues believe that same way. So that's a marked difference, from 57% to 25%. So, so when you see somebody in the workplace and you're working with them, they already have all that garb on, and the defenses are up. So they're already, for the most part, not going to be as open. So that's the challenge for all of us, is how do we sort of get past that first layer.